What's up, guys? Thanks for watching. We are talking today with Nomad. He is a career musician to the T. He's been working in this business for 35 years. He's got experience with publishing, with licensing, with touring, with gigging. So we're going to talk about all of it. Stay tuned.
Awesome. Well, Nomad, thank you for coming and hanging out with us and having a conversation about your career. Real quick, just to let everyone know, what are some of your most recent placements that you've had?
It was canceled, but it was a really cool series on Netflix called Gentified. It's a really cool show. Oh, this really cool animated series, Maya and the Three. Yes.
We were speaking recently, all three of us were on a panel out in Hollywood recently, and you shared something that I thought was fascinating. You shared a story of how early in your career you had a mentor who was a producer. That individual told you that the most valuable asset that you can have is your catalog.
Basically, he said, look, your catalog is everything. IP is a term that you hear being thrown around all the time. You know, it just means intellectual property. It's just something that's intangible, right? Because a song, although it can live on one of these, and I got stacks of these like we all do, it's intangible. You can't really touch it, but you can hear it and you can feel it emotionally. He's like, man, if you don't build that IP catalog, you're not going to have a back end of your career. Anybody who's doing music as a career, you'd be foolish to not build your catalog. The catalog is like, is it the foundation of your home? I don't know, because a lot of times our musical talent can be perceived in an analogical sense, metaphoric sense. What would the catalog be, referred to as? That's something that we can all think about for fun.
That's a good question. I think that, in my opinion, I think that the catalog is the foundation, because if you look at the foundation, it's the skill set of being a musician. Yep. The equity is the catalog. That's brilliant.
The longevity of that equity, right? It's just going to continue to go up in value over time. That's the tricky part with catalogs, right? Because if the songs aren't, or the compositions or the cues or whatever aren't getting used, it has the opposite effect. The catalog equity goes down in value.
Well, that's why it's important to have a large catalog of works, right? To diversify that equity. So it is steadily increasing.
So, Nomad, real quick, out of all of the placements that you've had on TV, what would you say percentage-wise would be instrumental versus vocal songs?
Good question. Definitely 75% instrumental, at least. However, I will say this, like I got a placement with Layla Hathaway. I wrote a song with her and the producer, Rex Rideout. So the three of us, and it got placed on the show called Lipstick Jungle. That song by far exceeded any of my instrumental stuff, because not only was it a vocal song, but it was featured in a scene, right? It made a lot more money than the typical little quick snippet of an instrumental.
I think it varies, and we all know how it works, but the people watching, they may not. So it varies. It's good to re-hit on that. It could be short, it could be long. They take the PROs take all of that into account, right? It's how short is it, how long is it featured, is it background, how many times has it aired? All that goes into account to what you get paid. One of my highest earners is a vocal song, but it was used in the film 4 times. So it's like almost 20 minutes of use in that one film. They use like 4.5 minutes. It's in the film Friends with Benefits. They use it 4 times in the film. That's my biggest earner. My other big earner would be Kardashians, and that's a bunch of instrumentals that re-air again and again and again. But it takes a bunch of those instrumentals to equal that vocal song.
Yeah. Exactly.
There was a post somebody posted on LinkedIn yesterday, and it was about it's time for ASCAP to do away with their sample surveys, considering the state of the industry.
Yeah, can you break that down, sample survey?
A sample survey. So ABC, NBC, CBS, they have census surveys where every time a song is used, it gets paid every single time. There's other networks that pay a smaller blanket license fee. And because their fee is smaller, ASCAP says, well, we're not going to do a census survey on Bravo or CNN. Let's not do a census survey. Let's do a sample survey. So they'll choose a date and time. Let's say it's today, September 5th, between noon and 2 p.m. They will sample that time block in a quarter, and only those songs sampled randomly during that time block will get paid. And they'll pay them out, though. They'll pay them out for the past 2 years of airings. Everyone else that aired today between midnight and noon and 2 p.m. and 11:59 p.m. will not get paid because it's a random sample survey.
If they chose 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., you'd be screwed, because who knows what's going to play,
I mean, cue sheets are, all digital at this point. The technology is there. When it comes to stuff like that, like I left ASCAP because of some of their issues that they had with paying out royalties compared to other PROs like BMI. I had co-writers with the exact same song over the span of multiple years their payouts were crushing it compared to ASCAP's, and it had everything to do with the way that ASCAP was surveying, so to speak. It's very, very frustrating.
Wait, I switched to BMI because of you as well.
I feel like everything should be fair. I mean, if a cue sheet can be sent in and it's a digital cue sheet, I don't understand why that can't be processed accordingly. The days of having to watch TV and analyze little sections, because we didn't have the technology. I mean, that's so far in the past. I feel that people should be paid fairly. I feel that musicians should be paid fairly for the performances of their songs, not based on some random market study that happened on a certain date and time. And if you missed it by either a couple minutes or a day or two, you're completely left out. I'm not a support of that at all.
If they do those sample surveys and they're dealing with these time chunks, how do they determine those sample survey time chunks? Who determines it? How do they determine? Is it a built-in algorithm that, like you said, it's a bingo by chance kind of thing? And nowadays, with the AI technology that has already caught up and surpassed us in so many ways, I'm sure that's going to be implemented in the future, right?
Should be. I think it should be a thing of the past. And maybe they're already headed that way.
We have people in our world who will sign their songs to a representation deal, say with a library, and maybe they have a 10-song record that they sign over to Library X, and Library X is going to represent those songs for placements. We do hear people say like, well, I have 10 songs that are licensed. They're not licensed.
But that have been placed.
Oh, that have been placed. Yeah, I've got 10 songs that have been placed. They've not been placed. You signed a representation deal with a company to represent your songs. It's kind of like this. If I hire a realtor to sell my house is not sold. I just have a representative representing the house on the market. The house is not sold until we have the transaction where we actually sell the house.
And like that example I gave, one song in the film 4 times, I consider that one placement. I licensed the song to the film, and there's a contract that said we're going to use it in this scene, this scene, this scene, and that scene. I suppose it could be argued that's 4 placements.
The term that I've heard, because I have a theme song on a Saturday morning kids show, they utilize that piece of music between 11 and 13 additional times in the show. It's for all the ins and outs, right? They actually consider those occurrences. So we have the license for the show, but then we have 11 additional occurrences. Jody, in your situation, I would consider that we have 4 occurrences in this movie. And what's interesting about the payouts with the PROs, it has their own metric, but let's assume it's the exact same placement, the exact same 30 seconds that they use. You might immediately think, okay, well, that's 30 seconds. That's the algorithm of 30 seconds times 4. But that's actually not the way that the PROs work. It would be like times like 4.3, because each occurrence is weighted just a little bit more. So as you get more and more placements in or occurrences in a show, you're actually getting a higher royalty because it has a higher weight. Musicians who are successful licensing their songs are not all the same. And that's something that's very important to keep in mind. You don't have to have the same mindset. You don't have to have the same attention to detail that you saw someone else maybe in a previous video has. Licensing comes down to having good songs recorded well and understanding the business enough, or in your case, having representatives who you work with who take your songs and they are the ones who are out there actively marketing it. You don't have to know everything inside and out, all the little details of how much the PROs and occurrences and all those little details, because the reality is that your publisher is taking care of that.
Let's analyze that now. Your publisher, right? Because yes, if you're signed to a publishing deal and you have a publisher like Cobalt or, Universal or something, like, wow, that's impressive. That's cool. And they have a staff of people that handle this stuff. Chances are nothing's going to fall through the cracks, or less things will fall through the cracks. If you have a publishing admin company that does all the administrative work for your catalog, then that's great, because now they're taking a 10, 15% cut, and they're likely doing all of that admin for you, all that minutia that you're talking about. If you don't have either of those and you're just leaving it up to your PRO, chances are a lot of stuff will fall through the cracks. You guys would agree with that, right?
I do, yeah. especially having an admin at least,
Yeah.
who would have, if they're administering for the world, they'd have sub-publishers collecting for you around the world, properly collect the royalties. It's just like, we all started as our own publishers. Our job is to chase down the pennies. And that's what part of what a publisher does. And an administrator is going to do that. They may not do the exploitation and the pitching, but they're going to chase the money. And if you're not chasing the money and following up, today, Jane is working at ASCAP and she leaves tomorrow, and then Joe's working at ASCAP and it's his first day. So you got to check in and make sure Joe knows what he's doing. And, you got to be on top of that. And a good administrator, a good publisher will do that.
I am a huge component for relationships. And that's where the cultivation of relationship comes in. I had two administrators. I started off with one. She adminned my catalog for at least 15 years. And I think she took she might have started at 10 and then she took 12.5%. She did an amazing job. She was so meticulous. I would get texts or emails when I was out on the road that say, hey, this person only wants to pay 75% of statutory rate. Are you okay with that? I'd be like, of course I'm okay with that, because I believe a small sum of something is better than zero sum of that something, right? So, then at one point, my catalog was losing its value, its equity. So she had to duck out. She's like, listen, it's just not monetarily feasible for me anymore. You're not earning enough. So I needed another publishing admin to come in. Then I got divorced. The new administrator said, okay, look, she has to get half of the catalog and then you get half of the catalog. Dividing all this stuff and figuring, that's a full-time job. So it's like, wow, to have these people in place. If you don't nurture those relationships, why should they care about you? They're collecting money for you, you cultivate those relationships. Now, if you don't have those relationships yet, it's okay, because a lot of people say, I don't know how to do that, but don't worry. Just keep meeting people, talking and being friendly, and those relationships will come organically. Don't you think?
Yeah, you also don't. A lot of people are going to be watching this, I think, and think, oh my gosh, I need to get an administrator. Why don't I have an administrator? You got an administrator because you had songs that were placed and making money, or you were getting cuts, and you knew they were already in the market. If you have songs, a catalog you're sitting on, you haven't done anything with, you don't need an administrator.
And that's really cool. I think maybe we can clarify that vernacular, a cut versus a placement or a sync, right? Because when we refer to cuts, it means that you got a song on somebody's album. So I had a lot of cuts on a ton of gospel and CCM artists when I was in Nashville. Those are what we refer to as cuts, right? Wouldn't you agree to that?
Yeah, they're all cuts. Yep.
That catalog is what's being administered. And then my sync stuff for multimedia, I don't have an administrator for that. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing, because the catalog is gargantuan. I have over 4,000 cues in perpetual sync mode. They're being synced, so.
Do you have a library that represents those songs?
Several. So that's how I initially got into the multimedia sync. So TV, film, and blah, blah, blah. But, it was around that time I met you, I met Catherine, and all these people that were like, yeah, library music is really cool. And then I moved out here. Actually, I got into library music while I was still in Nashville. So I started getting into these libraries, like, whoa, this stuff is really cool. By the way, nothing should hit the cutting room floor. So if you write and record songs to pitch to artists and they end up don't make it on those artist catalog, you repurpose that content and you put it into libraries, and then it gets synced in multimedia, and now nothing is going to waste. You are eating the whole pig from snout to tail. You're making use of it, and that's what you got to do. Hey, I'm Cuban, that we live on pork, very important, because now I had 20s, maybe even hundreds of songs that never made it, that we wrote this song for so-and-so, but he passed on it or she passed on it. We'll take that instrumental track, throw it to a library person. You never know. It might show up on the Kardashians. It might show up here and there. So that's what happened. That's how I really got into that transition of library. When I moved out here, libraries, it was the Renaissance era for libraries. Every library you can imagine was being created, and you'd submit here and you'd submit there. And then I learned, wait a minute, these are non-exclusive. So Bob's Tractor that I wrote got placed from this library on this show, and Bob's Tractor 2 got placed from this library on this show, but it's the same song. I just retitled it. Well, don't you know that the two different libraries like, no, dude, that's Michael Rapole. That's my birth name. Bob's Tractor. We get the royalties for that. But then Bob's Tractor 2, it's the same song. So no, that's my, How do you,
So many people were hopping on that train, myself included, and I think we all saw what was happening with that and the problems that it created. And that's when I stopped doing that and said, I'm
right?
just going to be exclusive. It's too messy. There was nothing illegal about what you did there, and it was Pump Audio that set the tone for that when they sold to Getty in 2002 for like 40 million, and they retitled their entire catalog, and then they switched to doing 60-40 or 70-30 splits in their favor. But everybody saw, holy shit, they just sold to Getty. You're saying we can retitle and do this and get placements and be non-exclusive? But it just created a mess, a giant mess for the industry. And then certain networks started shutting down and saying ABC will not work with libraries that retitle, because it started to create a big problem.
So you started seeing libraries get blacklisted back in the day, much like when we were in Nashville, Michael, and you go to the musicians union and you see certain musicians and producers being blacklisted because they weren't paying their dues. It's like,
the non-exclusive bandwagon, I hopped off that in the early 20 teens. We all hopped on it in the mid 2000s. Of course, we all experimented with that, and that's really what most things were. You mean to tell me that 5 different companies can represent the same song? Until you have the exact same situation that you were talking about. And of course, as technology caught up, it caused more issues. We still see people wanting to jump on that bandwagon. Unfortunately, there are still people teaching sync online who teach people to jump into non-exclusive libraries. That's probably the worst advice that you can get from someone who's teaching you, especially if you're brand new to this. You want to avoid that for the purposes that Nomad and Jody were just discussing.
Yeah, that portion of your catalog is now shot. The minute you do that, if 20 years from now you want those songs exclusively elsewhere, it doesn't matter, because those companies non-exclusively have the right to perpetually collect on those royalties from that master, because they've retitled the song.
Bleeding Fingers have produced quite a few amazing, very successful composers. It's a girl and a guy, and they're just like, they are killing it. Maybe I shot myself in the foot. I missed a great opportunity. Maybe they were going to turn me into the next, little mini Hans. I don't know, but
you got to take it every deal is unique, and you got to take it one deal at a time and trust your gut on that. To say like, hey, how about we do it for a year, you show me what you can do, and then maybe I'll consider the writership thing. Like that's negotiation at that point, when they would have said no, right? Because they're saying take it or leave it, but that seems fair to me.
Let's talk for a moment about the investment of time, money, focus, education. This is one thing that I think a lot of people don't quite get. The musicians that you are listening to most of the time, the hearing, or the musicians that you see playing behind major artists, they're not people oftentimes who just left their hometown, pulled into Los Angeles, and landed a gig.
It doesn't happen overnight. There's so much backstory that oftentimes we don't see. Do you remember the band Fun? There was a great interview with the lead singer. They asked him, they said, well, what's it like to be an overnight success? And he literally turned around. He's like, overnight success? What the fuck are you talking about? It's never what you see right here on the surface. And it's never what you see on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and all of the above. It's never that. You don't know the person's backstory. You don't know their trajectory. You don't know their trials and tribulations that they've had to endure. We're human. If you lost somebody dear to you, if you faced some really crazy financial turmoil or challenges, whatever it is, we're all human. We all go through stuff. I've been playing guitar and laboring over music since I'm 12. And then professionally, I got my first official gig at 16. 35 years, moving around and all this stuff. I've only had one day job, and that was for a short while. I think that was like 2 years or a year and a half. My whole life, I've made a living out of making music. But at the same time, I want people to know that I'm human, man. And guaranteed, if I'm human, I don't care who you're looking up to. Believe me, they had a path. And that path was not always sunshine and roses.
Let's talk about that Sync Titan award behind you. Tell us about that award. What does it mean to you?
I think it's quite amazing that you guys are doing that. So that Sync Titan plaque it really means something special. And it's actually to my wife and I. Our band is called Nomad and Lola. So we have a duo. We're in the studio. We're just the two of us, where we write and produce everything ourselves. When we created this band, this duet, we're both kind of over touring. She toured for a long time, and neither one of us are good travelers. We get motion sickness like you wouldn't believe. We're not touring. we are a sync band. So when Michael called and said, hey, I got something really cool for you, this is the Nomad and Lola plaque. And that's exactly why we created the band. So to be recognized for it, it's really cool. So thank you guys. I think it's dope. I think if there's anything you can learn from me, I don't record all my accolades. I think you should. And I think there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. You can be confident, but to be arrogant would be walking around saying, well, I played on this and I did this and I got this. But to be confident is to know your value, saying, hey, I am a talented person. I am a talented musician. I've earned these awards. I've earned these placements, and the living that I've carved out for myself, I've earned it. Go ahead and collect those things that you've achieved, write them down, put them on your resume, because you're going to need them.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, when it comes to the music industry, people are more confident working with others who have achieved some success. If you come to the table and you have this credibility, you instantly have what they call social proof. They recognize that other people have invested in you and you're coming to the table with the goods and you can deliver, right? That's kind of what social proof is. When you can leverage that to your advantage, doors open extremely quick. You know, Jody always says the first placement is the hardest. You don't have that credibility showing up to the door with you. You know, you got to knock that first door down. And then once that door opens to you and you get that placement on the Kardashian or Grey's Anatomy or whatever it is, next time you show up to the table, the door opens up very quickly. Like anything, it's like, you know, pushing that snowball up the mountain requires effort. Once you crest that mountain and it starts going down, it starts picking up its own momentum. And at that point, a lot of times you're just along for the ride. That's when it becomes a really fun journey.
If you're not ready, you're not ready. And you have to recognize that. And what do I mean by not ready? Listen, if your music isn't commercially viable and competitive in the marketplace, that means you're not ready. If your music isn't produced, written, and or mixed and performed properly, that means you're not ready. Don't come in here throwing shitty songs and demos at us. The industry is already inundated with more stock, more inventory than we could ever need. So make sure your shit is on point. And the best way to do that, get a folder on your computer of all your mixes. Open up 5 to 10 of those. Play them one by one. Pull up similar pieces and A/B them. Play the one on the streaming service, then play yours. And take notes. Really analyze it. If your vocals suck, let me reach out to some people that I know who really are good vocalists. Maybe we can collaborate. If my mixing chops are subpar, well, I'm going to go to YouTube University, study some mixing stuff. If I can't play guitar that well, I'm going to hire Michael Elsner to play guitar. You can't put the cart before the horse. I know that's so cliche, but if that door opens, like Michael says, and you're showing a subpar product, that door is going to get shut, but it's not going to open again from that particular source.
It's harder to open a door that's already been closed. Yeah, that first impression is important. You really can't say enough about having broadcast quality songs. I understand, you know, we say that a lot, but you do have to put on the analytical hat and listen to the quality of the drums, listen to the quality of the bass. Is the bass muddy or is it actually clear? How is my bass, you know, showing up? Is it overwhelming? So you do have to be analytical. Everyone realizes that they have their little things that they're not good at. So what do? Well, you find collaborators who can fill in those holes for you. If you're not a good mixer, find the collaborator who's a great mixer. That's a big part of building that team. The better team that you're able to build of collaborators, the more efficiently you're going to be able to get your songs written and mixed and put out into the world. Even if you have a collaborator, maybe that main collaborator's role is actually connecting with sync agents, you know, and even music supervisors and whatnot. Maybe that particular role is more on the administrative side. You know, not every person who's in the, you know, recording studio necessarily has to be always creating. There's a lot to be said for someone who's overseeing the administrative side of the catalog as well.
It's always worth giving up equity share for these collaborative, efforts. You know, if you have somebody like Jody who's super plugged in to the scene on getting placements, say, hey man, let's talk about the equity. Let's split it up. You know, then it is worth giving up a portion of your writer's share, because now you have a vehicle to actually get your stuff heard and placed.
I would just say most of the time, right, you don't want to give up your writer's share. Right? That's like the 1%. There's an opportunity that comes across my desk where it's like, there's no publishing, there's no upfront license fee, but man, this would be a big land. Who can I reach out to about this? Knowing that you're open to that, knowing that there's certain composers that are open to that is important for me as a sync agent to know, and as a publisher to know that, because I'm not going to reach out to someone who's not open to that, which I respect. That's a business decision that everyone has to make at some point. So being aware that those opportunities exist is important, but knowing that if you're giving up your writer's share, if you've been asked to give up your writer's share, it should be because there's no other money anywhere else in that deal.
Or the marquee power of their name. I'll give you
that example you gave with Bleeding Fingers is a great example of that. I mean, they will flex. They're saying, this is what we can do for you. So this is what we're asking.
Absolutely. Not only that, I'll give you another quick example. Justin Bieber, I wrote a track with the producer and 3 other writers in the room. Justin wasn't there. Justin didn't write a lick of it. The producer called me and said, hey, are you willing to give him? I'm like, of course. Because if we get the track.
It incentivizes him to keep the track on the album.
I do have another cool story about writing one of my first placements that earned $25,000, which was really cool. I think this was 2010. We were in Moscow. So no, this had to be like 2000. Yeah, probably 11 or so. My buddy back here in LA sent me an email and said, hey man, this opportunity just came through. Did you check your email? I'm like, no, let me go see. Sure enough. He's like, hey, can you take this track and do this and blah, blah, blah. We did it. I did it in my hotel room in Russia. So I'm in my room, I'm hammering away. I played the good. And then I call the drummer in the band. I'm like, yo, do you want to program some? He's like, absolutely. He always traveled with like a little drum pad. So he's programming. I'm laying guitars. I lay some bass. So we're doing the track in Russia in the middle of the night, which is the daytime over here. We finish the track. We go to bed, send it over to Frank, my partner out here. He sends it in. He does all the little mixing stuff, the tip top, and he sends it in. He sends me an email the next day. We got it. I'm like, what? It was $25,000. You could be a musician anywhere in the world. You can be an avid hiker and go out and bring your laptop and create cues in the mountains of anywhere and still get them placed. So yeah, I thought that was kind of cool.
Man, thank you for joining us and thank you for sharing all of that information with us. Always a pleasure and a privilege to hang and chat with you, Mr. Nomad. And Jody, I'm going to hand it over to you.
If you would like to join a thriving community of elite sync professionals dedicated to ensuring each other's success in sync licensing, then Elite Music Coaching invites you to join Sync Titan.
That's right. And inside this community, you're going to have opportunities to connect directly with sync professionals like music supervisors, sync agents, and music library reps in our monthly virtual meetup and networking events. You're going to be able to get coaching directly from Jody and myself. We have listening sessions, and we also have meetups where you can connect with other collaborators all throughout the world.
Also, we post opportunities for you to submit your music to films, TV shows, trailers, commercials, video games, podcasts, web series, and more. As a Sync Titan member, you're also eligible to receive a Sync Titan award.
So make sure to click the link below or above or to the side or wherever it is on this channel so that you can learn more about Sync Titan and how you can become a valued member of this community.